श्रियद्वैतगदाधार श्रीवासति गौरभक्तवृन्द श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम।
Hare Krishna. Welcome all for the Nityam Bhagavata sessions. Today we will hear from Canto 5, Chapter 14, text number 15 from His Grace Prasannatma Balaram Prabhuji. Prabhuji, over to you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much. Dandas pranams to you. Dandas pranams to all the devotees. So we can get started. My audio, video is okay? You're able to hear?
Yes, Prabhuji, perfect.
So much. Yes.
You want me to share the shloka, Prabhuji?
I can do that.
Okay.
Just trying to make sure the settings are okay. So that okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayet Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatam Maham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. Once again, just give me a minute, I'll share. Let me know if you can see the screen.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So today we're looking at the 14th chapter. We continue to see in the 14th chapter. Verse 15 is what we will look at today. So the verse goes like this. It's a prose. So just read it out. Kvachid asadhyagraham dhavavat priyartha viduram asukhodharkam shokagnina dahyamano vrisham nivedham upagacchati. So the word-to-word meanings of the synonyms are like this. Kvachit, sometimes. Asadhya, experiencing. Graham, the home life. Bhavavat, exactly like a blazing fire in the forest. Priya Artha Vidhuram, without any beneficial object. Asukham Udharkam, Asukha Udarkam, resulting only in more and more unhappiness. Shokagnina, by the fire of lamentation. Dahyamanaha, being burned. Drusham, very great. Nirvedham, disappointment. Upagachati, he obtains. Translation and then the purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. In this world, family life is exactly like a blazing fire in the forest. There is not the least happiness, and gradually one becomes more and more implicated in unhappiness. In household life, there is nothing favorable for perpetual happiness. Being implicated in home life, the conditioned soul is burnt by the fire of lamentation. Sometimes he condemns himself as being very unfortunate, and sometimes he claims that he suffers because he performed no pious activities in his previous life. Purport. In the Guru Ashtakam, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura has sung Samsara Dhava Naralida Loka Tranaya Karunya Gana Ganatvam. So this is a shloka that we all sing every day. So a life in this material world is exactly like a blazing forest fire. No one goes to set fire to the forest, yet the fire takes place. Similarly, everyone wants to be happy in the material world, but the miserable conditions of material life simply increase. Sometimes a person caught in the blazing fire of material existence condemns himself, but due to his bodily conception, he cannot get out of the entanglement, and thus he suffers more and more. So this is the shloka and the purport that we will discuss for today. So before that, the Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschayata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So this, I think, is a discussion that we have been having for quite some time now, very elaborate, very detailed, and very repetitive. So when the Bhagavatam was put in place, I think, sometimes, as teachers, they keep on repeating again and again the same thing. Prabhupada also used to do that. So we've heard his disciples, when they recount Srila Prabhupada, they say, like suddenly he puts in, like he'll say, he's talking about something spiritual, and then he's discussing a subject matter, and then suddenly he'll say, so we are not this body. And then he wants to drive home that point so much that, he keeps repeating it again and again. So sometimes, great personalities, even at the cost, they understand the cost of repetition. Nobody would like to repeat, but still they do it. Why they do that? Because the subject matter is so important. They want everybody to get that subject matter. So they'll keep repeating it. That's what we are seeing here also in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. What we see actually is, there's this more than, I think, 4 or 5 chapters that are being dedicated to this conversation that is happening between Jadabharata and King Raghuvana. So I think, right from chapter 10, after the description of Jadabharata in chapter 9, then chapter 10 onwards, The title of chapter 10 is Discussion between Jadabharat and Maharaj Raghuvana. Then chapter 11 is Jadabharat instructs King Raghuvana. So one more chapter on that, same conversation on it. Then chapter 12 is conversation between Maharaj Raghuvana and Jadabharata. So once it is Jadabharat and Raghuvana, other time it is Raghuvana and Jadabharat. So and then the next chapter, chapter 13, it says further talks between King Raghuvana and Jadabharata. So now there are so many chapters have been dedicated for this particular conversation. Very wonderful conversation. Then finally, in the end of the 13th chapter, if you look there, it says that whatever you've said makes a lot of sense for a person who's intelligent. They will immediately understand the futility of the material world. But then a person who's not so intelligent, like of course, people in Kali Yuga are not intelligent. So Parikshit Maharaj is actually referring to the people of Kali Yuga or with them in mind. He's asking this question. So he says, kindly describe little more directly without giving too much of indirect meanings and references. What is this material world and how we can understand? That is when the chapter 14 starts, which we are in right now, which is material world as the great forest of enjoyment. And this particular chapter is a conversation between Sukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. So we can see how there is so much of repetition because it's a very important topic. So with that understanding, just continue. Before I continue, requesting the blessings of all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis who are here. So kindly give your blessing so that I'll be able to do some justice to this wonderful shloka. And doing this as a service to the Lordships, for the pleasure of the Lordships, as service to the Guru Parampara and for my own purification. Hare Krishna. So, in this chapter, which is titled "The Material World," which is, which is compared to a great forest of enjoyment. This word, the forest of enjoyment itself, is very amusing. If you dwell a little bit on that, then it throws out many things, So the view changes based on how we are looking at it. Now, if I have to give an example for this, now let's say we are in a train and then we are going through a forest area somewhere. And then when you look out of the window of the train, you are nicely protected by the train, and then you're just going, the temperature is monitored, and then there is food on the tables. It's a nice situation. So you have this view of the forest, which is so wonderful. So anybody who's having this view of the forest within the train, from a train, will say, oh, so lovely it is, so nice to stay here, so nice. You see a small hut or something at the far end, then you'll think, oh, so nice to live there. It is so great and all that, So because there's so much nature. Each one will have their own reasons, but then everybody will come to the same point that it is so wonderful. But then just for a moment, think that your train stopped, or it kind of ran into some trouble, and then it has to stop for a couple of days there in that middle of the forest. All your lovely and all that feelings will immediately change. There will be anxiety, there will be worry, because you are directly in confrontation with the forest now. It's not like you're having this protected view. So this, most of the time it is like that, So that is why this analogy becomes so great, It says forest of enjoyment. So forest, not the forest which has the view through the train, but the forest where you are actually think that you're stranded there. And then it becomes an ordeal then to get out of that forest. No more it is perceived as an enjoyment. Okay, there might be some this thing to initially, okay, the weather is nice, there's so much of quiet, but that quietness becomes so this thing. So you will start to become conscious of all the dangers that are present in that particular forest, right from the various animals, then the crickets, the mosquitoes, and that is what is the conversation that we are seeing in this particular chapter, where the references are made. The analogy is between the material life that we are leading and the forest. So how there are so much of danger in the forest, padam padam vipadam. So there is that, and then that's how we describe our material life also. Every step there is a danger, Even in the forest, every step there is a danger. So, but then we are thinking it is a forest of enjoyment. We want to continue to keep that view of the train in spite of the dangers that are associated there. So that is what is this material world all about. It has a mix of both. There is this duality. So we want enjoyment, but there is anxiety, there is fear. So it's like material world is also, Acharyas describe this as, Prabhupada says this, he says like you're eating halwa, very nice, sweet, you're putting it in your mouth and then you're with your eyes closed because you enjoy that halwa, that you like it, so, and then you're just sinking into the taste and all that, and then suddenly you get some sand particles in it. Your whole mood changes, right? So like that, it is like a halwa which has sand mixed in it. So material enjoyment or materially what life is giving us is like that. It's a mixed bag. It has got dualities. It has got both extremes. It has got the good is always with the bad, or pain and pleasure is always together. So like that, the duality has to be understood. Not only understood, we'll have to perceive it each time when there is good. We should realize that, okay, now I'm happy, but then I can be sad at any moment. I mean, things might not be the same. The impermanence has to be accepted consciously. So we realize then, okay, or the way we react to the good or to the nice things is not that we become attached to it. We'll realize, so we know that, okay, right now I'm riding the good wave, but then, things can completely change any moment, and that depends on the Lord. So in this way, surrender aspect comes in this way, the reality, we are coming to terms with the reality and so on and so forth. And that's the intention behind these verses and behind the conversations that we are seeing in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. So here in this particular shloka, the main things that are being described are what? Here it is saying that it is not just a fire. I mean, up till now, it was only a view of the forest, which is so bad as it is that we just saw now with anxiety and fear. Now, Sukadeva Goswami is going one step further and he says it is not just a forest, it is a blazing fire in the forest. So now imagine on top of it, there is a forest fire that has happened when you're stuck or stranded in the forest. So as it is, things were difficult for you with that anxiety. And now there is a fire also. So now you have to guard yourself against the fire. And another interesting thing happens in a forest fire. This is what I heard. I have not experienced. They say all the animals will begin to run. So your chance of coming across animals is even more. So the fear becomes even more amplified. Anxiety is even more amplified. And then you have to save yourself from the forest, from the fire. So anyway, it's good to have such vivid descriptions so that we are able to comprehend the otherwise so-called wonderful material life that we think it is wonderful, to understand that it's not so great. Actually, it's a horror story, but we think it's a beautiful story. So they say, is it a horror story or a family story? Let's say family story. But actually, all family stories are horror stories from the Bhagavatam perspective, at least from these pages that we are looking at. So this is the view and this is the right education that one needs to have. And how many other time it gets repeated, it is for our own good. And that's how then we should view these discussions that are happening. So here, the forest, the blazing forest fire, and that's what we are singing every day, Samsara Dhava, Nalalida Loka. So where it is a Dhava Anala Loka, this whole material world, the samsara is like a forest fire. And nobody sets the forest on fire. That is what Prabhupada is saying in the purport. Yet fires happen. So it's not like somebody wants the fire and somebody has set the forest on fire. No, the forest fires happen because of the conditions that are there. When it is too hot, and there's also these bamboos which are next to each other, they keep rubbing, and then there is spark, and then the fire happens. And then, then everything becomes burned down. So like that, this particular fire is bound to happen because we are like bamboos, like bunches of bamboos. So we are all interacting with each other. So Adi Bhautika, Adi Devika, and Adhyatmika kind of miseries are always inflicted on us because we interact with people. So there's Adi Bhautika kleshas which are there, which erupt, which come up. And this is like the sparks. And then the fire happens. So it's a miserable condition for us. We'll have to accept. But on the contrary, everybody wants to be happy. But then miseries are there. So this is the analogy. Now, a person who's caught in this blazing fire of material existence, when there is so much of misery being piled on to one individual. So he thought the forest was nice because he had the train view, then the train stopped, and then to take that analogy further, and then he is made to now walk in the forest to get out because there is no other means. And now everybody is walking, then there is anxiety, fear, everything comes in. There is so much of drudgery. So you start cursing yourself, why did I this thing? So like that, when it is happening, then there is a forest fire that has started off, and then that makes it even more miserable. And what happens is the person who's caught in the blazing fire of material existence this way begins to condemn himself. But due to the bodily conception, he cannot get out of the entanglement and he suffers more and more. So here, the fire of lamentation is being stressed upon. So what happens here, when so much of miseries are being piled onto an individual, then he or she is not able to take it anymore and they begin to lament. This lamentation word is like, it's not like, oh, this lamentation is from the point of view of wanting to get out of the material world. No, that's not the lamentation. The lamentation is that things are not working out for them. So that's the lamentation of, oh my God, what has God done to me? Why am I suffering so much? And so on and so forth. So because there is no complete knowledge. So that is why lamentation is connected to ignorance, if you recall the various qualities of the three modes of material nature. The mode of ignorance, the primary manifestation of that mode is lamentation. They're always cribbing. Oh, this happened to me. Oh, that one. Oh, it's so difficult. Oh, I cannot, that kind of thing. One thing is postponement. That is procrastination is another aspect of the mode of ignorance, and then lamentation. So here, because there is no knowledge, they are lamenting and then they begin to condemn themselves. Before, in the earlier shlokas, we saw they wanted to take advantage of everything. They want to take advantage of anybody and everybody up to the point of their own family members also. But when nothing is working, then they begin to condemn themselves because they can't take advantage of themselves. No? So they'll begin to condemn themselves. They say, I'm in a very unfortunate situation. And then they begin to condemn themselves, saying that I did not do any pious activities. If I had done some good, then I don't have to go through all this, which is all true. But then this should not be the primary level of lamentation for us. Our lamentation should be with knowledge, which becomes like, what's that? When prayashchit is happening, when we realize we have done some wrong, then there is this prayashchit that happens, which is activity. And before that, prayashchit, there is paschatap. That paschatap also is something like lamentation only, but then you lament in a correct way. So this is not that lamentation which is equated to ignorance, but paschatap is like you feel sorry for what you have done and then you want to make amends to it and then you want to get out of that situation, which is a positive thing. But here the reference is to not that positive kind of a lamentation, but then this lamentation is about self-pity or victim consciousness, like, oh, I have been victimized unfairly, the world is unjust to me, that kind of a thing. So this is this is how the conversation is going on. And now we might then ask this question, like, why is it that we are going through this? For this, actually, because Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadeva Goswami for a very direct, more vivid description. You have it now here. And then it is being repeated again and again. So here, if you see this whole chapter, now if you have to just sum up a little bit, it talks about why we are in this particular forest, uh, which is full of dangers. So we know that the forest is full of dangers, but then why are we here? Because we as pure souls, when the pure soul wants to give up the Lord's service and then it wants to enjoy, then we know that it is sent to this material world. So now this coming to material world to enjoy. So now Krishna is so merciful that he is given an opportunity or a chance to enter this material world for those jivas who wanted to enjoy independently. There is enjoyment in service to the Lord, in being connected to the Lord, but somewhere the souls wanted to exercise their independence. So that is how then they are they come to this material world. So in fact, it says, but then if you want to enjoy, then remembrance of Krishna is, these two don't go together. So if you can continue to have the remembrance of Krishna, then you will not be able to enjoy. Or if you think you want to enjoy, but then very quickly you'll tire out. So the Lord removes that particular remembrance of himself. So we forget Krishna. So that's what is Krishna Bahirmukha Hana. So that's what it says. Then Bhoga Vancha Kare. So that's the way in which a living entity behaves in this material world. It turns away from Krishna, Bahirmukha, and then it begins to enjoy. Bhoga Vancha Kare. So this is in Prema Vivartha. So this is the reason the pure soul, it falls down to the material world because it wants to enjoy. And then due to these activities, what happens when you come to the material world, then you get influenced by the three modes of material nature. So these three modes of material nature will influence the activities, the way we react to situations in the mode of goodness or passion or ignorance. And thereby we begin to accumulate reactions to the actions that we perform. And then you have this whole long list which is growing by the minute, by the second, it keeps growing. So we continue to lead lives where we keep adding to the karma without realizing it. But then the Lord is giving us a chance to take different positions, like we become different species of life in this life. And then we want to do this bhoga vancha. So we want to enjoy in every way. We have to enjoy as a snake, as a reptile, as a creeper, or any of those, as an insect, any of those things, all of that. Each one has its own kind of enjoyment. And of course, suffering, which is together. So we saw that. So like this, we have started our journey in this material world. And then material world also includes the heavenly planets also. So it's all the way up till there. So that, sometimes you become a demigod in the heavenly planet, sometimes, a very insignificant creature in the lower planetary system, the worm in the stool, Prabhupada says, right? So like that, we go through this entire species of life, all the species that are there in the material world, 8.4 million. And then that's what Narottam Das Thakura is saying. Nana yoni sada fire. So firte hain means we keep traveling through these various species. Nana yoni. Yoni is bodies, so different types of bodies. Sada fire, sada. So it is like almost permanent. And then what happens when we are doing this, changing bodies like this? Kardarya bhakshana kare. So we do bhakshanam. So we are obliged to eat and enjoy abominable things. So kardarya means abominable things. So they're forced to eat, like if you're in a pig's body, then you end up eating stew. That's that kind of abominable things that we end up doing. And then he is also saying Tara Janma Adha Pate Yaya. In this way, this whole life is spoiled without the protection of an all-merciful Vaishnava. So this is the silver lining to that particular suffering that we are doing. The conditioned soul cannot get out of the clutches of Maya. This whole thing is happening under the influence of Maya. We just discussed the details of how that influence is happening. But collectively, this is the clutch of Maya. That's how our acharyas are describing it. Then, what is happening next is, then the living entity is continuing to do this. And the Lord is so merciful that for the living entity, He is giving certain things for this enjoyment. What has the Lord given us? He has given us a mind and He has given us the senses. The type of senses could vary from species to species, but we all know that they have a mind and then there are these senses. The mind and the senses are there. With that, we begin or we are told to go ahead and experience the material world, experience. This experiencing is the plus and the minus, both are included there. So in this way, the senses, that is why the senses are actually compared to rogues and thieves, because you are in the forest, which is a material world. So you come to this forest, you are no longer in a train or protected or anything. You're not having that distant vision of the forest, so everything looks hunky-dory. It's not like that. So you're put in this forest. So now and then our senses are like the rogues and thieves. So we'll have to watch out for the rogues and thieves when you're walking in the forest. So likewise, when we are doing this journey in the material forest, we'll have to watch out for, keep a watch on our senses and our mind, because the mind can take away the man's knowledge, like how the thieves can rob. So like this, direct examples are being given to help us understand the situation correctly. And then what happens? It places him in a network of ignorance, because mind, it takes away the memory. And that's the senses are, and then over and above this, what happens is there are family members, and then wife, children. They are like these ferocious animals in the forest. So now we'll have to picturize ourselves. Forest, then there are thieves and rogues. So that is like our senses and mind. And then there are other ferocious animals, which are like family members, like wife, children, etc. And then we have seen in detail also why that comparison is there. So then the business of such ferocious animals is what? It is to eat the man's flesh. And then the living entity allows himself to be attacked by the jackals and foxes. So he's allowing himself, happily he gives in to the jackals and the foxes. That is the wife and the children. And thus his spiritual life is finished. So what is finished here is the spiritual life, because you get entangled by allowing yourself to be attacked by these ferocious creatures. So then you do activities which will bind you more and more. And that is why they say spiritual life is finished, because you would have done so much of activities in that enjoyment that you would have acquired so much of karma, good or bad, whatever. So then you will have to, you have assured yourself or reassured yourself of repeated births. So you will have to go through all of that. And then like that single act of Yudhishthir, or the soul in not Yudhishthir, in Dhritarashtra's body, that soul assured itself of 50 more births by setting fire to that particular tree when in the hunter boy's body, it set fire and then it burned down, and thereby he assured himself 50 more births, because he has to then become blind king and then lose all the sons, and thereby that karma gets nullified. So like this, we are making ourselves, our lives more and more difficult by the actions that we do. The reactions that we face are overwhelming. And then what happens is, he allows him, and then spiritual life is finished. Then in the forest of material life, that will continue with the story of the forest, the horror story. So what happens is, everyone is envious. So envy is a normal thing that we see in the material world, which is compared to the mosquitoes and the rats and the mice. So these are all like irritants, pests. They're always there, but they are very, very disturbing. And then they are in the material world, generally people are placed in awkward positions. They are surrounded by envious people and disturbing animals. So in the same way, you have this situation in a forest, same thing happens, right? You're in an awkward position because you have these mosquitoes, rats, everything, crawling, creeping animals, four-legged animals, ferocious animals, everything is there. So, and then the thieves and robbers are also there. So you'll have to contend with all of these people in the forest. So likewise, you have to do that in the material existence. The result is that the living entity in the material world is always plundered and bitten, and then they continue to attack. How much ever you are on guard, you will always be attacked by the mosquitoes, you will be bitten by this thing, or you will hear the roar of the jackals or the lions and all of that. So despite these disturbances, the funny thing is that the entity does not want to give up the family life. You're more and more attached and you want to protect yourself. You don't want to get out of that forest. You build fences, you build cages, and then you want to rather continue to stay there rather than give up and then get out of the forest. The most intelligent thing would be to get out of the forest, but no, because there is these animals, we build a fortress, we build a whatever. We try to arm ourselves, we try to protect ourselves. So, and then we cause harm to those animals, thereby we ensure that our reactions continue. And then we get more and more tied. So the more we try to get ourselves out of this forest situation in a very limited way, or in a protective way, like, just, okay, I'm in the forest, let me protect myself kind of a thing. But that protection, actually, we incur more karmas and we get more and more entangled. So in our attempt to become happy, we become more and more bound. It's like that example of the person who's in a water body and there is a lot of weeds in it. So the more you struggle, then the more you get entangled in those weeds. So the best thing is not to struggle and try to stay afloat. So people, you would have heard that, they say, or even in a quicksand, like say you fall into a quicksand, you are sinking, so you want to get out. But then if you struggle to get out, you start using your hands to get out. You sink even more further by that movement. So this way, we are in a situation which is not very good. And then we think nobody is watching, but actually the demigods are watching. So like this, many such analogies are being given here, and to bring out the fact that our situation is not good, so that even with our limited intelligence, we are able to perceive or comprehend the danger that we are in, the horror story that we are part of. So we should understand that, and then not given to things like lamentation and all of that, and not search for happiness in material things. So because we know that material things is very impermanent, and then searching for happiness in something impermanent is a very foolish thing to do. In fact, our acharyas are saying, what is this happiness that we get by fulfilling some material desires? It is actually not happiness. It is actually absence of misery. That's all. So like now, let's see how it works. Now, let us say we have a desire to own something. Let's say take a car. So we don't have a car. As a family, let's say we don't have a car. So we develop this desire to own a car. Now that desire will play on our mind in such a way that it makes us feel miserable. That's the first thing. Before you buy the car, it become very miserable. Oh, I don't have. Always. Oh, if only it was there, we could have gone. So let's say we are walking and then it's a hot sun, and then suddenly the family is going somewhere to walk. Then you realize, see, if there was a car, we wouldn't have to go through the suffering, blah, blah, blah. So all this. So it makes us more and more miserable. And then let us say finally, after some period of time, we get this car. Then we think we are happy. But actually, if you analyze, there is no happiness with regard to the car. What has happened is, after the car came in, then the misery that we were associating because of the absence of the car is gone. It is removed. So it is only absence of misery. There's no happiness there. Actually, we're not happy with the car. It is just that, no more misery. Now I don't have to. Now, in the mind, you become free. If you analyze the reasons of acquiring something, anything you take, you can extend this example to anything. The latest model of the phone, iPhone or whatever, you see everybody using it, and you psych yourself to become miserable because you don't have it. And then you buy it, and then that misery is gone. That's all. You're not happy with the phone. You may not even use all the features. That is immaterial. There are so many features, you'll not even be aware of it. But then you still want to have that because and then when you take it, then you still think you feel happy, but that is not happiness because that is only absence of misery. So this way, if we analyze based on what our acharyas are saying, based on what the scriptures are saying, then there is some light at the end of the tunnel for us. So because one thing will lead to another, and then thereby then the Lord then begins to help us in our journey of getting out of the forest, and out of a forest which has got fire. So because we realize that. So we have to show urgency. So that's what the shloka is all about, where it is a blazing fire. So it's not like, okay, I know I'm in the forest, now I'm a little protected. So let me stay here, let me spend the night here, tomorrow morning I'll figure out how to get out. No, you can't do that because the fire has started now. So you'll have to get out quickly, immediately. So that's the urgency aspect is being stressed in this particular verse because it's a forest fire. So you need to get out fast. And then don't look for happiness here. So that was the discussion that we were having. So we realized that any object that we take, then acquiring it does not give us actual happiness because I've acquired the object. It is because after having acquired that object, then the miseries that were associated with not having it, which was playing in my mind so greatly, is all gone. So we may not be very happy with that car or with that iPhone. So that is why then we tire out fast with these acquisitions. And that is why this happiness is fleeting, because it is not actual happiness. It is just absence of misery. Then we find other reasons to become miserable. And so our misery continues. And thereby we lose interest in this thing that we have acquired. So it looks like very it's not a win-win situation. It's like even before it has started, we have failed, that kind of a situation. So which is not good for us. So this way we continue our journey, and then we are plundered. We are so many things happen to us, but we still want to stick on, and that is what is very amusing. In fact, Yudhishthir Maharaj, you all know, you might recall that particular story where Yudhishthir and the Pandavas, they were in the forest, and then Yudhishthir was feeling thirsty, so he tells his younger brothers, go and find water. And then each one goes, but then they don't come back. They're supposed to go to a nearby pond and get some drinking water, but they don't come back. So they get worried. Each one is sent up all the way up to Bhima. Then he also doesn't return. Then finally, Yudhishthira Maharaj goes out to see why they have not returned, and then he finds all of the four of them dead there. Then he realizes that this particular pond is under the influence of a yaksha, or in the possession of an yaksha, and then he says, wait, you cannot drink. I have a question. If you answer it, then you can have water. Not only that, then your brothers also will become alive. So then the first question he says is, what is the most amusing thing in this material world? And for that, the answer that Yudhishthir Maharaj gives is that people see suffering all over. People see other people die, but still they continue, act and behave in a way that they are going to live forever. There is no death for them, that they can be happy. So that only is applicable for others. But for me, it's not like that. And this is very amusing or very interesting thing in this material world, which the Yaksha agrees, and he says that's the right answer. So like this, from the pages of Mahabharata, anywhere you see, you'll always start these examples, and these pastimes are all there to help us understand our position with respect to the material world. And then the sooner we realize it, now we have the information, we have the knowledge, but then there is a gap here. So we have the information, we have the knowledge about the material world, all of that, because we've heard sufficiently, but then we don't realize it. What does it mean to realize it? That means that when I'm suffering, does this come to my mind? Or when I'm enjoying, does this come to my mind? No, it doesn't come. It is not second nature to us. When we're enjoying, we allow in for the senses to take over, and then we enjoy. When we suffer also, we see it from the perspective of the senses, and then we lament, the fire of lamentation, all of that happens. But we blame our karma and all of that. But then we don't look at it as something that I deserve, which I have got, and I need to get out. And then what is it that I need to do if I have to get out? That intelligence somehow is not working. It doesn't come into the front, even though we know it. Or we get angry with somebody because somebody interfered or they made me get upset. So this anger is again what? Reaction again. So, but then we don't accept it as this is what I deserved, so I'm going through it, it's all right, and then move on. So no, we want to hold the deliverer of misery accountable for our misery, which is not a correct thing, because he is only like a postman. He's delivering that misery to us because we had subscribed for this misery, so it has come to us. But then it has come various times, it comes through various postmen. So somebody is there to deliver, that's all. So, but then getting upset with the deliverer is a foolish thing. So thereby we subscribe for more miseries because our reactions are there because we behave in a certain way. So like this, we will understand. Now, the silver lining that we spoke of earlier was that when you come in contact with a devotee, when all this is happening and birth after birth we are going through, there is a silver lining here. And that silver lining is that we can come in contact with another devotee and then everything can change. And that is what happened with each one of us. Somehow we came in contact with Krishna. The somehow coming in contact with Krishna is through another individual, so through another devotee. And devotee, not in the sense, here I'm using that word, not in the sense of somebody with Kantimala, Tilak, it could be anybody, because we know what is the definition of a devotee is of Krishna. Anyone who accepts Krishna, who knows that, who has said the word Krishna once also is to be considered a devotee. So like that, there are many people who have assisted us step by step. And then the biggest push that comes is when you come in contact with a pure devotee. Then that life transformation happens. That heart transformation happens. Then we begin to see suddenly there is this clarity. And then we realize, okay, this is not how I have to look at it. So this is only possible when we associate with another pure devotee. And that association with pure devotee has already happened for us because we have now we are associating with ISKCON, which means that we are associating with Prabhupada, with the Parampara, with Prabhupada's disciples, with, so that whole Parampara, if you take it collectively. So we are associating with Prabhupada. When I say associating with Prabhupada, it's Prabhupada and all the way up to Krishna. So every time we don't have to say that. But when you associate with the pure devotee, collectively you are associating with everything connected with Krishna. And then the magic happens. And that magic is that there is a transformation of heart for us. So this way, we will become more grateful to the people who have pushed us towards meeting a pure devotee or coming in contact with a pure devotee. Like how Srila Prabhupada never forgot his friend who took him to His Holiness Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj when he was visiting Calcutta. So we all know that particular incident where he actually forces him, Prabhupada or Abhay, as he was known before, he was not very keen to meet him. He said, he in fact had a very low opinion about such sannyasis. He said, these people, they only want money. I know what they are, kind of a thing, the typical attitude was there. But then this friend forces him, forcefully takes him, in the sense like he pesters him, no, come, you'll like it and all. And then he just says yes, because he didn't want to offend his friend, he says, okay, I'll come, okay, fine. So in that way he approaches. But then that transformation happened after the meeting. So otherwise, we will continue in that existence in the forest fire without realizing till we meet a pure devotee. So that pure devotee we already met, and our journey has started, journey of getting out of the forest fire, out of the forest. But now we should realize that, but then we think we have time. So now we should think that it is the fire has started in the forest and we should get out quickly. So getting out quickly is not giving up the body, but then changing the consciousness and then ensuring that I don't view things, material things materialistically, but then try to bring Krishna into it. And that is what Prabhupada says, no? Krishna is everything. Bring Krishna into everything. And that's what Prabhupada did. Technology he embraced, whatever was available at that point. He says, I'm using it for Krishna. So the dictaphone example, everything we know. Money, he spiritualized it. He Krishnized it or spiritualized it. What did he do? He used it for the service of Krishna. And we know that famous example where he's counting money and that person who comes to meet him, he is having so many thoughts in his mind. What is this sannyasi, such a great person, but he seems to be more interested in the money. That kind of mind was playing games with him. And then based on the next action that Prabhupada does, then immediately he gets the perspective right, because he was in the presence of a pure devotee. He was in touch with him, so that influence happened, and then he realized, no, I shouldn't think like this. So like that, these life-changing moments happen for everyone. It is happening for us. It might happen at a little slower pace, but we should understand the urgency and then get out. So from that perspective, today's shloka was about fire of lamentation, which is about not that prayaschit or not that paschatap kind of lamentation that we are talking about. This is the lamentation in the mode of ignorance where we feel ourselves miserable and we want to be good, and then we blame everybody, and that kind of lamentation. That's the fire of lamentation, which torments us, but then we still don't want to get out. We condemn ourselves. So we always take the wrong approach, but that right approach will happen when we are connected to a pure devotee. And then the fact that it's a forest, and then we have to understand the forest means then it is all these nonsense are there with in that. It is not. I mean, I was just, when I was reading these things and hearing to the lecture, I was reminded of one poem that we were all taught. Many of you would be aware of it. This is by Robert Frost. There's how does he describe the forest or the woods? He says the woods are lovely, dark, and deep. So they accept the fact that it is dark and deep, but still they will say that it is lovely. So they don't want to give it up. It's a mixed bag. It is lovely, dark, and deep. So there also it is dark, so it is scary, and then it is deep. The getting out is difficult. If it is deep, then it's getting out is difficult. But then he still describes it as lovely. So this paradox will always be there in materially when we view things and then we try to describe. So what does that say? And then, of course, it goes on just to complete that poem. So the woods are lovely, dark and deep. I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep and miles to go before I sleep. It is actually talking about the duty, what I have to do and all of that. So it's like a drudgery, but you have accepted the fact, but then you don't want to get out of it. That sleeping there is not about moksha, but it is more about the path that you take, and then so that everything is taken care. So in this way, whatever materially any description that happens, even though there are traces of this impermanence and misery and fear and all of that, but still it is not viewed in a perfect way till we come to the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, where there is so much of clarity that comes in, like what we are seeing now. It's a journey that is not journey which will take us to the permanent destination, but it is more like a merry-go-round. So we keep going on in circles without making much progress. In fact, it's a downward spiral, circle, so it keeps us going down, but it will not take us up because we incur more and more karma because of the activity. So like this, if you're able to comprehend all of it together and then pray to the Lord for his mercy so that we continue to be on guard and continue to serve, continue to view material things as it is without being judgmental, without trying to vilify somebody, without trying to become anger, without trying to show those emotions which are connected to the body, then our path is clear. And that is what I just wanted to say and stop here and conclude. So if there are any comments or anything that anybody wants to add, please go ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Wonderful class. Amazing points and insights, Prabhuji. You started off with how this message of Srimad Bhagavatam is repetitive. And it's not only Srimad Bhagavatam, but also Srila Prabhupada also used to repeat the same points so that the point gets hammered through. Wonderful. And this whole section itself is amazing about how precarious our position is. And then you started with the analogy of the train through the forest to explain this particular point, this section that it is that of Bhagavatam is, where it is a blazing fire, and what a person does when he's caught in it, and also why we are going through it. Super. And then you also said that while we are going through the suffering, the only problem is we don't remember in our actual position. And you also mentioned a point about how the misery comes in, right? You blame the postman, but the postman actually is delivering our package only, not somebody else's package. So that we don't understand. And most important point that you made at the end was how Srila Prabhupada is given as this association of devotees, which will help us transform from this particular precarious position. So thank you so much for your wonderful class. I would request devotees to share the comments, thoughts, or if any questions are there, please unmute and ask.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavad Pranam. And the beginning of the week, we had a fantastic lecture and so practical these points. And we are grateful to you for the So thank you very much, Prabhuji. As you said, the association of devotees is very, very important. And whatever our temple is doing, they're doing a wonderful job. The entire team of Nityam Bhagavad Seva and the speakers, we are having very nice time. Wonderful, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam, Mataji. So we should be grateful to Srila Prabhupada. So we are again being grateful to the postman. I'm only delivering.
Anybody else would like to share their thoughts? I think there are none, Prabhuji, so maybe we can end the class here. So thank you so much, Prabhuji, again. We'll end with Vaishnava Pranams. Vanshakal-patarubhyascha kripa-sindhubhyah Antakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai, Vaishnava Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Thank you all. Thank you all being on the session. I will meet same time tomorrow. Hare Krishna. I'll end the session now for all.